We begin our journey beside the royal palace, standing at the edge of a canal that once formed the beating heart of Amsterdam's daily commerce. In the 17th century, this waterway pulsed with a rhythm all its own, a carefully orchestrated dance of trade and survival. Small cargo vessels drifted slowly through the narrow channel, their wooden hulls heavy with goods from distant warehouses. Workers bent over the edges, hauling barrels onto the stone pathways, their movements practiced and efficient. Locals navigated the narrow walkways that ran alongside the water, stepping carefully as they made their way toward the morning market, where merchants were already calling out their wares. The houses that climbed skyward from the canal's edge were tall and narrow, built not for grandeur, but for purpose. Each structure maximized the precious space available in this crowded, water-bound city. Windows opened wide to catch the breeze that traveled along the canal, bringing relief on warm days and the constant scent of river water. If you had stood there, listening, you would have heard the soft, rhythmic knock of wooden hulls bumping gently against the canal walls, the low murmur of conversations between workers coordinating their tasks, and somewhere in the distance, the measured toll of a tower bell marking another hour. This was not a scene of chaos or spectacle. It was ordinary, everyday life unfolding in a growing, orderly trading city where efficiency and commerce shaped every detail. Now we move forward in time and space, arriving at Dam Square in the late 17th century. This vast, open plaza served as the undisputed center of Amsterdam's public life, a place where citizens from every walk of life converged. The square functioned as the city's main gathering place, a wide expanse used for markets, the posting of public notices, and daily meetings between neighbors, traders, and officials. Traders arrived early to set up their stalls, arranging their goods with care. Farmers rolled into the square with wooden carts laden with produce from the countryside, while residents crossed the open space on their way to shops, guild halls, or simply to exchange news and gossip. Above it all, the royal palace loomed, its massive stone facade dominating the skyline. But in this era, it was not yet a royal residence. Instead, it stood as the town hall, a monument to Amsterdam's rising power and civic pride, a declaration in stone that this city had arrived on the world stage. The soundscape that filled the square was practical and constant, never ceasing from dawn until dusk. Voices rose in negotiation and bargaining, wheels creaked as wagons rolled across the cobblestones, and the steady flow of people created an ever-present hum of activity. This was the functional heart of the city, busy yet disciplined, reflecting the careful rhythm of daily life in a place where order and prosperity went hand in hand. Next, we turn our attention to one of Amsterdam's many canals, those defining arteries that gave the city its unique character and structure. In the 17th century, these waterways were far more than picturesque features. They acted as city streets, essential for transport, storage, and quiet passage between neighborhoods. Small boats ferried goods from warehouse to warehouse, their operators navigating the narrow channels with practiced skill. Meanwhile, residents walked the narrow paths that ran beside the water, heading to work, to market, or simply moving through their day. The houses lining the canal were practical and uniform, their design reflecting the city's need to make the most of every inch of available space and natural light. Tall, narrow facades rose in orderly rows, each building carefully fitted into its allocated plot. Standing beside the water, you would have heard the gentle, almost soothing movement of the canal itself, the soft lapping of water against stone and wood. It was a calm but essential part of everyday life, a constant presence that shaped the way people moved, worked, and lived. We then reach a particularly significant location, the bend of the Herengracht. By the late 17th century, this graceful curve in the canal had transformed into one of Amsterdam's most prestigious addresses, a place where wealth and status were displayed through architecture and careful maintenance. Wealthy merchants, grown rich from trade in spices, textiles, and exotic goods, erected large, symmetrical houses along this stretch. Each residence featured broad windows that flooded the interior with light and carefully crafted facades that announced the owner's taste and prosperity to anyone passing by. The canal here was quieter than the more commercial waterways closer to the city centre. It mainly served private boats and local deliveries, rather than the constant flow of cargo vessels. Walking along this section, you would have noticed tidy gardens tucked behind the houses, clean brick walkways kept in impeccable condition, and a steady, refined flow of residents going about their day with an air of quiet confidence. It was a calm, orderly corner of the city, known throughout Amsterdam for its prosperity and understated elegance, a place where success was visible but never shouted. Finally, we arrive at a building of enormous historical significance, the Oost-Indische Huys. In the 17th century, this imposing structure housed the headquarters of the Dutch East India Company in Amsterdam, one of the most powerful commercial enterprises the world had ever seen. Within its walls, administrators and merchants gathered regularly to plan voyages that would span months and cross oceans. They managed intricate trade networks, oversaw the buying and selling of goods arriving from Asia, and made decisions that would ripple across continents. The courtyard and surrounding streets bustled with a particular kind of energy. Clerks hurried between offices, carrying stacks of documents, sailors fresh from the harbour sought their next assignment, and porters moved through the area carrying cargo samples, small tastes of the exotic goods that would soon flood Amsterdam's warehouses. The harbour itself may not have roared with constant noise, but the neighbourhood pulsed with a steady, purposeful rhythm. This was quiet, orderly activity that nevertheless kept a worldwide trading network humming day and night. The decisions made within these walls helped shape not only Amsterdam's extraordinary wealth, but also its reach and influence across the globe, connecting this northern European city to places most of its residents would never see. We now come to the De Pinto House, another landmark that speaks to the wealth and diversity of Golden Age Amsterdam. Built by the wealthy De Pinto family, whose ancestry connected them to Portuguese Jewish heritage, this residence was notable for its generous proportions and graceful architecture. During the 1600s in Amsterdam, families such as the De Pintos became part of an expanding population of newcomers who experienced a remarkable degree of liberty. The city refused to enforce segregated housing zones, which meant that immigrants, Jewish traders among them, were free to establish themselves in whichever neighborhood their resources allowed. If you had strolled past this particular house back then, you would have encountered a well-appointed, carefully maintained home that spoke volumes about individual achievement and the city's welcoming attitude toward people from different backgrounds. It stood as a quiet but powerful symbol of Amsterdam's spirit of acceptance and the opportunities it offered to those willing to pursue them. Next, let's consider the Blaubrug spanning the Amstel River as it looked in 1664. During that period, the bridge was nothing more than a straightforward wooden structure, its railings coated in blue paint, which is exactly how it earned its distinctive name. The Amstel itself was wide and animated, constantly busy with small cargo ships, fishing craft, and passenger barges making their way steadily through the water. Standing on the bridge, you could take in the sight of warehouses, workshops, and residential buildings lined up along both riverbanks, while people on foot moved between different parts of the city. The entire scene felt open and purposeful, a functioning river that sat right at the center of daily urban existence. It was a tranquil yet essential junction within Amsterdam's growing network of waterfront activity, where commerce and everyday life blended seamlessly together. Now we shift our attention to the Amsterdam Town Hall as it was illustrated in the Stedenboek around 1698. By that point in time, the building had already earned recognition as one of the city's most impressive accomplishments. It was a large, well-proportioned structure designed specifically to represent Amsterdam's sense of order and civic dignity. If you had stood in the square facing it, you would have observed citizens streaming in to resolve legal disputes, fulfill their tax obligations, or participate in public proceedings. The front of the building was clean and symmetrical, and the open plaza stretching before it hummed with the movement of people on foot and carts rolling past. It was a vivid demonstration of the city's self-assurance as the century drew to a close, a physical manifestation of Amsterdam's prosperity and organized governance that left a lasting impression on anyone who passed through. Further along our journey, we encounter the houses lining the Herengracht near the old Haarlemmerhuis around 1670. This particular stretch of canal was recognized for its sturdy merchant residences. These were tall structures with facades arranged at even spacing, featuring broad windows and understated decorative elements that conveyed taste without excess. The atmosphere here felt noticeably calmer than the hectic energy of the commercial districts closer to the harbour. Residents could be seen taking leisurely walks along the water's edge, while small boats glided by at an unhurried rhythm. Everyday existence in this quarter appeared structured and pleasant, a reflection of the consistent wealth enjoyed by the families who made their homes there. It represented a characteristic, well-maintained section of the Herengracht during the period known as Amsterdam's Golden Age, when the city reached its peak of cultural and economic influence. We then turn our attention to the Oedeschans Canal, where the Montelbaan storen stood watch. Throughout the 1600s, this tower functioned as a recognizable landmark for anyone approaching the city from the water. The canal itself maintained a steady level of activity without feeling rushed or chaotic. Small trading boats, fishing vessels, and local barges made their way along its course at a measured pace. The Montalbaanstoren played a dual role, serving both as a lookout tower and as a navigational reference point for sailors and boatmen. Its clock and bell helped organize the daily rhythms of life for everyone in the surrounding area. Along the waterway's edges stood unassuming houses, workshops, and storage buildings where local residents transported goods, collected water for their households, or simply went about their daily business. The scene presented a clear and familiar snapshot of Amsterdam's working canals, all set against the backdrop of one of the city's most lasting and recognizable towers. It captured the everyday reality of a maritime city where water and commerce were inseparable from ordinary life. Finally, we reach Amsterdam's harbour, the powerful force that generated the city's immense wealth and international standing. During the 17th century, Amsterdam's harbour ranked among the most congested and productive ports anywhere in Europe. Enormous vessels belonging to the Dutch East India Company prepared themselves for extended journeys that would take them halfway around the world, while smaller craft constantly ferried goods back and forth between the crowded warehouses that lined the waterfront. Workers moved in continuous motion along the quays, engaged in the never-ending tasks of loading and unloading cargo from ships of every size. The entire environment vibrated with activity and noise, the sharp clatter of ship rigging being adjusted, the deep rumble of heavy carts rolling over cobblestones, and the voices of ship crews calling out instructions to one another above the general din. This was the beating heart of Amsterdam's economy, where global trade networks converged and where the city's future prosperity was built one shipment at a time. It was right there, along the shoreline, that a significant portion of the city's fortune first started to materialize and grow into something tangible.